alcohol and drugs are part of the culture there. And when I first started working full time, tips, you get $80 back, back in 2011. You get $80 on a night, like you're solid. Like you could do something with that. And everyone in the restaurant industry and the bars. So that's when it was, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, dude, it was the most fun of my life. Like I had a great time, like partying. And then obviously it progresses, and then I got in a relationship with someone older, and I was just not fit to be.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Hey everybody, just want to welcome you to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan, and just want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Sober Strong Apparel. Sober Strong Apparel isn't just lifestyle wear, it's battle gear. Heavyweight tees, hoodies, and gear for ones who draw a hard line. Clean, sober, no compromise. We rep sobriety like a badge of honor, and every piece you throw on says you're a part of the crew that doesn't back down. And every order fuels recovery with 10% donated to treatment facilities. And if you use the code ROCKBOTTOM, all one word, capital letters, ROCKBOTTOM, for 15% off on SoberStrongApparel.com, you can look at all these heavyweight tees, all these hats, banners, sweatshirts like this one. So many good options. The style is incredible. I love what this company represents. If you have anybody you know in recovery, any family, sober curious people in your life, or for yourself, if you're in recovery, this is the gear for you. Great style, comfortable, and the quality is amazing. Thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere else. Follow us on social media. Thank you so much for all your support. And remember to check out SoberStrongApparel.com. Thanks a lot, y'all. Enjoy this episode. All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. I'm here today with Jordan. Jordan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. I've been looking forward to having you on today. I'm glad we can make it happen, and we are excited to hear your story. I'm sure my listeners are excited to hear it. And first and foremost, as you know, this is a recovery-related podcast we're doing today. So do you have a sober date? If so, when is it? And what was your drink or drug of choice? Where are you from? Where do you live? All that stuff.
Yeah, my sober date is July 27th of 2025. 26. So I'm just about 9 months sober right now. I was an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic.
Nice.
I love alcohol. I love liquor. And then it would always lead into cocaine and a bunch of anything, ecstasy, shrooms, all that good stuff. I'm from Los Angeles,
Yeah,
California,
you and I would have
born and
partied hard.
raised. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from Los Angeles, California. And yeah, it's pretty much a little background.
Cool. So you're still in LA area, born and raised there and all that, and just kind of stuck there?
Yeah. I'm actually just on the outskirts in Pasadena,
Awesome.
but
Okay, cool.
it's passing its own city, but it's 10 minutes from
Oh, okay. Awesome. So congrats on 9 months. I know, like, from my experience, I'm at 18 months right now, but that first year, was definitely tough. I mean, I know a lot of times seemed easy, and then sometimes it seemed difficult. So congrats on that. That's incredible.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate it.
had you had many other, we'll probably talk more about this later. Did you have any other longer periods of sobriety over time, or like a few months here
Yeah,
and
so I
there, or was
originally,
this?
my first time getting sober was October of 2023. And for that, I was sober for about 15 months.
Wow.
And then,
Congratulations.
yeah, 15 months. And then I just got really complacent, the ego, the pride. I just didn't want to do the work anymore. And I thought that I thought I figured it out. I thought that I was like, nah, I have enough information. I've done enough classes, enough work on myself to where I could go ahead and I could drink like a gentleman. I could drink normally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
sure
did the
enough, you
same
know what?
thing.
Maybe for the first couple of times it worked. And then slowly, it just gets a little more crazy.
It was
And then you
progressive as
start hitting up
usual.
the connect. And
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So I want to hear more about that in a bit, but can you go back into like what was childhood like? What was your family dynamic growing up before using?
Yeah, so childhood, it was me. My parents split when I was 3, so didn't really get much of that. I guess a two-parent household. Then me and my brother and my mom, that's where we moved to Highland Park, which was a town neighborhood in Los Angeles. It wasn't the best of neighborhoods. It was pretty gang infested and pretty wild growing up. But my mom did a great job at holding us together and kind of keeping us away from that.
When was your first use like, and who were you with?
The first use, it wasn't until I got like it was the summer I stopped committing to sports as much. And it was the summer before my senior year. It was when that summer was absolutely ridiculous. I smoked weed my junior year a couple times and it was cool. I had a great time. It was weed that I was introduced to and I became a straight stoner pothead. But then I started just kind of, everything around you is Nas, ecstasy and alcohol. And that's what like the high school days were. It was ecstasy, weed, and alcohol. Because cocaine was introduced yet because it was too expensive. But
Yeah.
as soon
Yeah. No, I know. I had to go to
as
like to hang out with the ritzy kids to get access to cocaine back in the day.
yeah, and we didn't have those around. But as
Yeah.
soon as I started, I'm all in. I'm pretty sure like we all are, right? It's all or nothing. There is no let me just get a little toke. Let me just get, a little roll. Like I want to fully commit to my high. And I want the high to last as long as possible. And as soon as it starts going down, I want to take more, ingest more, so I just let it ride. And that's how my high school was. And that summer was absolutely crazy. I would steal the liquor bottles with like a gym bag and just walk in, just like the pop offs or the cheap with the no sensors on it, the cheap vodkas and whatnot. And
Yeah.
just, we didn't care what we were drinking as long as we got drunk.
Yeah. So how did that so like through high school, were you still maintaining grades or were you skipping class or how'd that go?
Yeah, so that senior year, it was downfall. I quit all sports. I even quit baseball, and that's when I kind of like that was holding me together because I had that sense of community, right? I was actually working for something because the only reason I did well in school was because I could play sports. Once that went out the window, I started selling drugs. I started ditching. I started hanging around the wrong kids, and I just really just gave up on everything. Um, I just fully immersed myself in partying. It was every day before school, I was getting high. And then every day after school, I was getting high. And then on the weekends, I was getting drunk. And that was just my senior year. I was the guy that supplied the party. I was the guy that, Jordan will have the party favors. We need a bottle. Jordan will go do a liquor run. He'll steal it for us. Don't trip. And I needed that that affirmation. I needed to be liked. And that was
Yeah.
my way of getting to the in
Yeah.
crowd, was supplying the party favors because I was needed.
Yeah. It makes you feel like that validation, like just feeling like, hey, people need me, people like me, people want me around because I'm willing to bring all the crazy shit to make the party happen. So you start to like I know when I selling drugs, that was like one of the most satisfying things is when like people would be hitting me up all night. They're like, oh, I'm supplying the party. This is great.
Right. And it's fake love, but you don't care because
Yeah,
you have no self-respect, so self-love, right? So you'll take anything.
exactly. Yep. And we just, that's one of the things that made me want to keep doing it. It was just like, all right, well, people want to come to my house at the end of the night. But in reality, I look back and I'm like, oh, I was just, getting people lined up, free drugs, probably not even selling it at that point. So it's like, cool. I feel so popular. But the second you stop doing it, you see that they weren't your friends in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. I was the world's
Yeah.
worst drug dealer. I always owed myself money at the end of whatever I ran out of. I was like, damn, how
Yep.
do I owe myself
Yep.
$100? What is this? Can never re up.
Exactly. I totally get it. So how did so what do you think was starting to take over the most at first? Would you say it was alcohol or drugs or just a combination of them?
It was definitely alcohol. Cause like then alcohol kind of trumped. I did
Yeah.
weed just because I needed to be high and it was something that I could do and be high but still function. And I wouldn't get crazy. But I look forward to the weekends, man. I look forward to getting my 40. I look forward to taking those
Yeah.
cheap shots of Smirnoff vodka. And that's really, really what took over. Because my whole life it was right. Looking back on it now, I was always leaving the house Thursday through Sunday. And then in that moment, I would be like, Mom, just chill it, dude. Like, it's not even that much. I don't go out that much. But looking back on it, like, who the hell goes at 18, 19 years old has to leave the house that much, like all hours of the night? And so,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to escape the
Yep.
house because I had rules, but with the homies and wherever I was on the streets, I could go ahead and just get drunk. And so it was definitely
Yep.
alcohol.
And these are the people that your mom wanted you to stay from.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well, so what was like her reaction when she started seeing you quit sports and go out more and all that? Like, was she, like trying to intervene quite a bit, or was she kind of just like, I'm gonna let Jordan do his thing and learn on his own, or how'd that go?
She tried, but I think at that point, like looking back on it, I think she was just like, what can I do? Like she was depleted.
Yeah.
So this kid's out of control. And that's when she, let's see, fast forward after high school, I was dropped out of college, went to three different colleges in 3 different years and didn't commit, didn't finish one semester, any of them. And then that's when I think when I was 21, she said, Joe, my dad, she said, you need to take them. So that's when I moved in with my dad. And
And
that's
how
when
does that go? Like being with your dad who partied.
it was, he was a, let's say, do as I say, not as I do. Like it's okay for him to do it, but not me. So he was trying to, tell me not to
Okay.
party, not to do this. But yet every time when I would see him do it, he would go balls to the wall. And at that age, we weren't really partying together yet. We didn't really party together until like mid 20s. But it was just kind of like, oh, cause there was another, he lived in an area that also wasn't, the best. And my stepbrother, who was a year younger than me, he lived there. So then now I just kind of switched over to him and now me and him, and he introduced me to all his homies. And that was just as bad as where I
Okay.
was at. So again, my dad was trying to do the same thing my
Okay.
mom was doing. But at that point, I was like, where I had the mentality, right? Where were you all these years? Like I needed a father and I needed a dad a long time ago. Now I don't, I'm sorry, I'm not going to
So it
listen to you.
almost made you want to rebel. Yeah.
100%. I had resentment towards him. I hated him. I told him to his face, I don't respect you. I don't
Yeah.
like you. And I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you weren't there for me the way I needed. And I feel like, now that he's trying to all of a sudden be a dad, you're like, screw that. I'm just going to do what I want because you weren't there when I really needed you growing up.
Exactly. I was like, I'm gonna do what you do. I'm gonna do what you taught me. The one thing you taught me is how to party and how to fight. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Exactly. So, on top of drinking and using, were you getting into like a lot of fights or in trouble, like legally and stuff?
I was always in the riffraffs, rumbles. I wasn't like always getting into fights, but I always had a mouth on me. I got in a couple, got arrested a couple times. Just, like that. Like the core group of me, bro, I'm not a fighter and I'm not a confrontational guy at all. I'm a peacemaker. That's the last thing I want to do. But when I'm I'm in that mindset of just drugs and alcohol. There's no filter, and I'm the complete opposite. And
Yeah.
I just do stupid stuff, right? And I just lash out. So yeah, I would get into fights. I would just do a bunch of stupid stuff like that. Just I'm surprised. When you look back on it, like I should have been doing jail time or prison time with all the stuff that I did. But by the grace of God, bro, like he was watching over me. And fortunately, just a couple arrests here and there, but nothing substantial.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, if you don't mind me asking, like some of these people you were hanging out with, were they gang related? Did you ever get like pressured to join a gang or anything like that? Being around some of those people, 'cause I know you said you were in those kind of neighborhoods growing up, so I wasn't sure if that had played a role in like some of the people you spent time with.
Yeah, no. I was definitely never pressured. That's why, like, they knew. My mom grew up in the neighborhood, so everyone kind of knew the family. And knew me, and I was never pressured like that. It was just you have homies that are gang members, they go that route. But I knew from the get, I'm not cut from that cloth. I was never meant for that. I'll kick it, I'll do stupid stuff, but like to join a gang and to commit that far, that was never me. And and they knew like, oh yeah, Jordan,
Okay.
nah, dude, shut up, stop. You're the fun, you're the comedian, you're the cool guy. You just chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
knew
good.
my
That's
role.
good. Okay, so that didn't. That's good. That's good. And at least they still respected you and still had your back and everything. So it was
Yeah, exactly.
all the good qualities of having friends like that, but you didn't have to join, didn't have to get jumped in, none of that crazy stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's good. So like, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I'll be 36 next month, next week.
Oh, okay. So how did it evolve? Like, say, going into like you dropped out of college. How did it go into like your 20s? Where did you get into like relationships? How did those go? And like, how did drinking and using progress? And when did you first try to quit?
So I would say when I first started at 21, I got a job in the restaurant industry. You know, if anyone works in the restaurant industry, it's a very fast paced, fast life. Alcohol and drugs are part of the culture there. And when I first started working full time, tips, you get 80 bucks back, back in 2011, you get $80 on a night. Like, you're solid. Like, you could do something with that. And everyone in the restaurant industry and the bars. So that's when it was, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, dude, it was the most fun of my life. Like, I had a great time, like, partying. And then obviously it progresses, and then I got in a relationship with someone older, and I was just not fit to be in any relationship. I was just a very broken individual, and I would lash out on my partner because they were like my punching bag, so to speak. So when I would get drunk and get high, and because your partner is the one that's trying to look out for you, and they see you all the time, and they see you messing up, and they're going to be the one to call you out.
It's
And the
always
last
not
thing,
what you
right?
want to hear.
Exactly. You're supposed to, we as drug addicts and alcoholics, we want our partners to enable us and to coddle us and to tell us everything's going to be all right and to keep going. No, you're fine. Yeah, they're wrong. They're wrong. So the ones, right, they call you out on their bullshit, you feel like, oh, you're attacked now. You play the victim.
Yep. That's so true. That's so true. I could only be in relationships where the person was enabling me or drinking or partying with me, or else if it was anything but, I would not only feel like constant guilt because I'd be like, well, I'm the only one getting trashed and I have to like hide it now. Whereas I get into relationships where it's like, hey, it was part of the relationship, but then it would be a toxic relationship, so it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just two broken people trying to
Yeah, exactly.
get through life, bro. And it's not the case.
Yep.
But that
And
was
that
that
does
first
never works
relationship.
out.
Yeah, that first relationship when I was like 23, 24, maybe 25 when I got with her. We were together for like 2 years. It was very bad. I was verbally abusive. I was knocking down, like, punching walls, breaking glass. That's when, like, I was on like that. It's honestly, yeah, I was on that, like, when you want to commit suicide for attention because they're gonna leave you. So
Yeah.
it's just like that, just a broken. I was just a scared little boy, and I didn't know how to handle anything. And so one time took a bunch of painkillers, and all it did was just give me the worst stomach problem of my life, and my insides started bleeding a little. Funny story, right? And then I go home, and then we break up that day, and then I have to move all my stuff back to my dad's house. And then my homie has to take me to the ER so I can go get checked on just to make sure that nothing's too crazy in there. But, I'm kind of bleeding through my freaking rectum because I took too much damn painkillers, and it's just killing my insides at the moment. And so it was like, that's the kind of
Eesh.
relationship and the headspace that I was in that relationship, which just goes to tell you that I should not have been in any relationship at all. And that's when things really started to get problematic. That was about 24, 25. And in that relationship, I tried quitting. This is how I tried quitting. Not through AA, not through recovery, not through God, not through, all right, I'm just going to smoke weed. Okay, you know what? Because alcohol is my catalyst. So I'm just going to smoke weed. And then shortly after that, I want to go back to drinking. Or how about this one? I'm just going to do cocaine. I could do cocaine. That's fine. But like, I'm lit. And then I want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So what I do? I got to drink. So that was the kind
Yep.
of,
I know.
right? So it's just an addict's mind, man. Just trying to do everything but the actual
I know.
work in getting sober.
Yep. No, I know. I always try to find some vice to replace it, but then in the end, you're just replacing addictions with another addiction. Like if I even attempted to do cocaine without alcohol, I would immediately pick up a drink because I'd be too amped up. So
Exactly.
it would be impossible. I mean, I had thought about that the first couple times I had tried getting sober, and I was like, yeah, I can do a line of blow, like I can do this without alcohol. And then immediately I'm like, I need to like calm down, so I'd start drinking. It never worked.
Yeah, never, dude. Your heart's
They
about to
always
stop
went
in
hand
your
in hand.
chest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But so like that relationship, what was the reason that ended? Was it because of the use and just not being able to fully stop and do the work?
Yeah, it was just that, dude. We were off and on, off and on. And then she was a GM of a restaurant. She took me on as one of her workers, and it was fine until it wasn't. And then I was drinking on the job, and then it was just toxic. And then finally, I was like, okay, I need to get the hell out of here. And I was out in Van Nuys in the
Okay.
Valley, and then left that relationship, got fired from the job, and then moved back to. Yeah, I was back at my dad's house again.
Okay. And
Again.
then was it always like partying hard, or did you catch yourself drinking and using by yourself very often?
I never started, I could never start drinking and using by myself, but it would always end up like that because the party, either someone, no one left to party, or I just have to go back into my room and just kind of do it. But it would always start outside. I couldn't really just drink at home. I was never the guy. Like I had to start out at the bars. I had to go out. I had to go do something. And then it would always, okay, it's 2 a.m. What's the move? Whose house are we going to? What are we going to do? End up in a motel for the next day or two.
Okay. And then so it was mostly social, and you liked to kind of be around people when you were doing it most of the time.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's why I would hit up people that I knew were down to go join me in my misery. And be like, hey dog, I got an 8 ball. I got a bottle. So you want to come pull up? And like, I would never talk to these people ever sober. Like I wouldn't even, but all of a sudden when I'm in drugs and I'm high, like I love
Sorry,
this.
it's breaking up for some reason. Might have to have you repeat that in a second. Not sure. The internet's acting funny. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. You might have to repeat that last 30 seconds.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So, I would always be the guy, right? I wanted to be social, and I'd be so social where I would invite people that I knew were drug addicts or alcoholics, right? And I didn't even really kick it with them like that, but they're down on the phone list, and I knew if I give them, hey, I got an 8 ball and a bottle, they pull up, and then now just so I have a little drinking buddy. But in reality, when we're sober, or even if I am drunk, whatever, I still wouldn't talk to you until like I'm desperate, just because I want misery needs company.
Yeah. Totally get it. I was pretty dependent on people too, even like when I'd try quitting, I started to think, oh, my life's getting so lonely, and that's what would always make me go back out, is just chasing the social high too, So I would start drinking and using again because I'd be like, well, at least I have friends again, So that was like the reason I was scared to get sober in the first place, was just losing the whole social aspect and all those mostly fake friends out there, So it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly,
But
100%.
but yeah, so what finally led to like your initial getting sober? How did you do that when you got sober for 15 months? Because that's a long piece of sobriety right there. So like, how did you get to that point?
So it was two more failed relationships, two more very toxic relationships, ups and downs, job hopping. But then I finally, I kind of find a little groove to where, I'm a tax accountant, and I've been doing that for going on 10 years now. So by the grace, guys, I was able to still build clientele and still make some money. And then I went on for about a year and a half. My best friend, we went to Colombia, we went to Amsterdam, Germany, and I thought that that was the epitome or the ultimate party. I thought that was what, if I could be down here in Europe partying, like I've made it. I finally can achieve happiness, and I did all that, and I came home and I was still miserable. I was more miserable than before, and that's when I finally decided I need to make a change. And my boy, who was one of my bartenders at Barney's, he's sober, and he actually was my first sponsor. And so he's the one that got me into the rooms.
Like, did a rock bottom take place, or you're just kind of like, did you get hospitalized, arrested? What happened?
Yeah, so it was honestly, it was like two, really, I guess, it was two more failed relationships. One was toxic off and on for 6 years, off and on. I treated her like shit. It was both toxic on both ends, but I could hear just talk about my part, and I wasn't a very good leader. I wasn't a good man. I wasn't faithful. And I was just really depressed, man. Like, I would just lock myself in rooms in my house, in my room, and just stay in there for 3, 4, 5 days. And I thought that, like, I went to, what is it, Oktoberfest in Munich. I went to Colombia. I did cocaine in freaking Pablo Escobar's, one of his mansions. I did all these things, and I thought that that was going to make me happy. And when I came back, I was just more miserable, more depressed, and more sad. And I was just like, what am
Yeah,
I doing? And
yeah,
finally, I was like, my one of my favorite bartenders, my boys at a local bar, he's been sober for 10 years. He went from getting, and he's in the rooms, and he went from getting me drunk and stuff to being my first sponsor. So he was the one that got me into AA and got me the first sponsor. And basically, I went full, like, on my own because I needed help. I didn't want to live this life anymore. And my ex-girlfriend always told me, she's like, Jordan, you're going to become miserable and grumpy like your ex, like your dad, and you're going to be nothing but wasted potential. And finally that clicked. And that's when
wow,
I went into the rooms, and I committed. I committed to AA.
wow. Those are some harsh words, but I'm glad they like sat in and motivated you. So
Oh, dude,
that's
they
good.
resonate me. And I ran into her at a baby shower for the first time, like a year and a half. I just told her, I was like, I don't know if you remember, but you told me these. She's like,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So like, so you ended up having a sponsor who was also like somebody who previously was a drinking buddy.
no, he was a bartender.
Oh,
He's
okay.
so yeah, sober bartender. And he would just I would always ask him, hey, so what, you go to AA? He's like, yeah, dude. And he would just, whenever you're ready. Yeah, whatever, bro, whatever.
Then he would serve you a drink if you weren't
Exactly.
ready, though.
He hooked me up, get me messed up. And then finally I was like serious. I messaged him. I was like, yo, what do I do? Where do I go? What I gotta do? What I gotta do?
Yeah,
And he took me to a meeting. He took me to a meeting, and then it was a small little meeting, bro, in a park with a little fire. It was like 6, 7 dudes. And I had to talk like the first time. And I was like, and I
yeah.
remember the first time I scared, man, my voice was cracking because I was so broken. And I was just like really just hearing it. And I was just like, man, I need help. And yeah, and that started my sober journey.
Wow. So you said going into that sober journey, you felt great for a while, you were putting in all the work, and then when did you start to realize you're getting complacent? Like, did you slow down going to meetings or what?
My mindset, I was so fixated on a year, that when I got the year, I stopped working with my sponsor. I stopped calling him. I stopped working the step work. I stopped going to meetings. I just didn't care. I was like, "Oh, I can handle this." And then
Yeah.
I did it for about 3 months. And like I said, it wasn't until about 3 months after that year. That's when I ended up at the homie's house, and it was 2 a.m. and I was sober and I was ready to dip. But then, there were some girls there. It was just like a little two-man. And then I was like, I could take a shot. And then I took a shot, and then that went on a 2-day bender.
Oh, dang. So it
Yeah.
just started, kind of started off as like just like partying for a couple of days, and then you probably came to and then took a break and then gradually went back out again.
Yeah, so I took a break. It was still tax season, so I was still busy, but I put on my mind, I was like, okay, so I didn't drink at all. I beat myself up, but I didn't drink at all or do anything until Coachella of last year. That was like my mindset. I was like, okay, Coachella's my birthday. I'm gonna go ahead and just stay sober till then. And then Coachella came, and I went balls to the wall, bro. I did everything. And that's what started until from Coachella April until July. And I went through maybe like 15 grand on just partying in that time. And I was like, everything I've worked for, I'm about to blow. I was down to like
Yeah.
my last like $1,200. Like, damn, I might not make rent. And then I was like, I need to figure I was like, what? And that's when I was like, okay, I need to be drastic. And then I started, I was on TikTok, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna take you through this sobriety journey. And like today, I said, I'm going back to being sober, and I got to do this. Yeah, I almost that would have been another rock bottom. That was kind of like a not like a rock bottom in the sense of everything, of what I've been through.
Yeah.
So I've definitely been through worse. But if I would have had to like lose everything that I've worked for based off that relapse, then that's like luckily though, I
Yeah.
had the tools and I was able to catch myself.
That's good. I mean, that's kind of the similar thing that happened to me, except I didn't last 15 months. I lasted 3 months. And after 3 months, I told myself if I go 90 days, I got this figured out. I'm like, I can be a controlled drinker. And of course, that 90th day or whatever, I pick up a drink. And in that drink, I was like, I'm only going to have two and I'll be good. And then I had like 12 that night. And I was straight back at it for 2.5 months until I decided, okay, I'm going to rehab. But in the back of my mind, I had had those 3 months of meetings and meeting people that were sober and stuff, and that stuck with me. So it's like almost like that was part of the process was relapsing, but still having a little bit of a foundation to build off of. I don't know if you
Yeah,
got that
exactly.
feeling too. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like me, I needed to I the whole time when I was sober, I was still like, damn, what if I can drink normally? What if I can go back now? What if I have that knowledge now? Maybe I'm straight on that. But then no, no, no. And so I needed to do that relapse. I did. And I'm not gonna lie again, bro. I had fun. I had fun as far as it is fun to fuck off all responsibilities. It's just not have a care. But you can't live life that way. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't all
And I also
bad, but
yeah,
so many
and I
consequences.
remember in that relapse, because all I did now in that relapse, I just had more money in my pocket. I had a whole year of locked in
Yeah.
money, and it was a Sunday. I started partying on a Friday, and it was a Sunday about 10 a.m. And I had a whole bag of cokes that I started on Friday, and it was like if you had a time lapse on a room and me and other people coming in, and finally it was
Yeah.
just me. And I remember I was like, I need to just finish this, get it over with. Tomorrow's Monday. Like, I need to do something. So I took a fat line. And then I just remember sitting in this chair and my heart started pounding really fast. And I started just sweat just started coming out and I couldn't breathe. And I was like,
Jeez.
is this an overdose? Like, I'm going to die right now. I think my heart's going to explode. I think this is what an overdose is.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't. And I was kind of like panicking in my mind, like, oh shit. And I just stood there and finally it all started. It stopped. And then I was like, okay, wow, that was the close call, Jordan. And what I do, I took a shot, I took a little, and then I said, okay, I can't do that big of a line then. And I took a little small line.
Jeez, yeah, no, I've done the same thing. I just remember there's a couple times where I just went way too hard, way too far, too long of a night, and did some, and I thought I was having a heart attack or something, and I would tell whoever's around me, I'm like, I think I'm freaking out, and they would just kind of ignore me and be like, no, he's fine or whatever. Yeah, it's frightening when you think you did too much or whatever, because we don't
But
know how to regulate in that state of mind. So
yeah, dude, it's like, let's
yeah.
rock and roll, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So how long? So that relapse lasted April to July, and then this time around, was it hard to quit? I mean, did you think you were physically dependent on alcohol, or was it mainly just partying hard? Like, were you waking up with the shakes and drinking in the morning, or
No,
stuff like
no, because
that?
I was never like an everyday kind of drinker. It was just when I did, I would
Yeah,
go balls to the wall.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. I wasn't really dependent like that. But like, I mean, I could feel it in my body. I could feel like my bones. I could just feel weak. But as far like the shakes and all that stuff, like the hangover, no, it was just your normal hangovers.
How much do
Thankful.
you how much do you think you consumed alcohol and cocaine in your worst night? Would you say?
In my worst night, I would probably okay, like, and to be like realistic, right? I would probably say like maybe a gram and a half to myself, and then like maybe 3/4 of a bottle, like a regular sized Jameson bottle, and like
Yeah,
five or six,
yeah,
7 beers.
okay. Yeah, so it wasn't like extremely like hard to quit. Was the first few weeks a little difficult? And like in the past 9 months, have you had many like moments where you thought you tried to convince yourself you could go back again, or you've been pretty stuck to it?
It was really easy to stop because, like I said, I was running out of money, and I was just like, yeah, I can't like this is stupid, Jordan. This is dumb. But then as far as yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, sometimes like I'll get those intrusive thoughts, like maybe like just one night or like who cares. But
Yeah,
then, my first sponsor I always said, just replay the tape. You
yeah,
know exactly just replay the tape. Where's it? You might be able to do it for a couple nights. You might be able to do it for a week, a month. maybe even a year, George. Maybe even, obviously not, but maybe. But guess what, though? Eventually, it's gonna catch up to you.
Yep.
So just don't start.
True. Exactly. No, replaying the tape is the smartest thing you can do because I have to admit, I'll even admit while we're recording, it's just I've had moments where like I almost got that like thought where I'm like I could go out for one weekend and just shut off my brain, because sometimes in sobriety our brains still have the ability to kind of freak out at times, and I used to drink to calm it down every time, and now it's like, wait, I know what happened last time I decided to pick up a drink. I was balls to the wall for 3 straight months until I ended up in treatment for 45 days. Like, do I really want to waste all of that on one drink? So, 'cause I
Yeah,
know I can't just have one. I've never had just 2 drinks like those normal people that I think they're weird. I don't know how they do it, but where I just like see people have 1 or 2 and go home and call it a night. I'm like, no, I'm having, 0 or 10, at least. I'm blacking out. So, yeah.
exactly. We're
Yeah.
not drinking to get messed up. Then what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. So it's so what do what how's life been sober? What are you doing like work wise, and like you said you developed a relationship with God. How did that happen and all that?
Yes, I've always grown up in the church. I've always been Christian, but now I've actually immersed myself more in, serving and getting more involved with church. I have a 13-year-old son who I was in and out really bad, absent for a while. And then so I'm mending that. I'm able to be at his games. I'm able to hang out with him to pick him up. His mother trusts me to do stuff like that.
It's huge.
I hang out with family now. I see my mom. I visit my dad. I call my brother. And I realized that I have much more time in the day to do stuff. I work out often. I'm present at my job in taxes. I day trade in the mornings. I
Yeah, I
do
did
that.
trade too. Nice.
Yeah, there we go. See, we have, it's like we could just put our mind and we realize we could do a bunch of other stuff and do it to build a future, instead of just wasting it hungover and drinking and using. So my days are pretty busy, man, and
It's awesome.
it's good. But and I could not be doing the amount of work and stretching myself the way it is if I was drinking and using. I could not.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure rebuilding that relationship with your son, I'm sure it's not easy, and I'm sure it's like, baby steps right now and all that, but I'm sure that's one of the biggest rewards in sobriety so far, I would assume.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, he could either say, "Hey, look, I wasn't around in his younger years, and if I would keep on using, that would turn into he was never around at all.
Yeah,
Might end up
exactly.
dead or in jail." At least I can say, "Hey, look, man, it's never too late." And one thing is, he's not going to see me be a drunk. That's for sure.
Exactly. And he's at that age now where like those core years where those pressures might be hitting him soon, but he can see his dad and like what it did to you, and then like what it did to his grandfather, and all that, and he can like think of it differently now, and you can, inspire him to kind of think twice before doing it, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when I'm telling you, "Hey, don't do that stuff," there's nothing good out of it. At least he can't turn around and be like, "Well, you do it," you know?
Exactly. Yeah, kind of like what you had to deal with your own dad, so now you can lead by example. So
Exactly, exactly.
that's huge. That's huge. So what? So you're staying busy, or trading stocks and doing everything productive, and obviously it's easier to put money away. I've learned sober and stuff. So, how else are you going to meetings, and are you sponsoring people yet or anything like that?
Yeah. So, I got a meeting in 2 hours. I secretary a Monday night meeting right here up the
Nice.
street. So I do that. I definitely need to go to more. Tax season though is crazy, so I was still sticking with my commitment. And then now, I'm going to open myself up to accept a sponsee. I could
Cool.
finally take one on. So I'll
That's
definitely be
awesome.
doing that, and then try to get at least, 1 or 2 meetings in. Yeah, like I said, I've still, because I like, me personally, I liked church and AA. I think they work very, very well hand in hand. I need AA because I'm with like-minded individuals. And when I say I'm an alcoholic, it's not because I take on the identity that I still drink or whatever. But when I say I'm alcoholic, it's to remind myself is, no, you cannot have one, because your one turns into that many. So that's why
Yeah.
I will always say, no, no, I cannot do
Yep.
that. So, and then church,
Exactly.
just everyone has their higher power, right? Mine is Jesus. And so that helps me lock in and hone in and really, really create that relationship.
Good. That's awesome. So since day one, you've decided to put yourself out there and share your sobriety story with the world and all that. That's what you've been doing. Have a lot of people kind of reached out and asked you, and I see a lot of your videos. They're really good and inspirational. So is that what you're doing? Just sharing step by step what it's like being sober?
Yeah. The first part, I was really active every day. I kind of stopped a little bit, but I still updated with my sobriety. And it's more so now. It's kind of like I just want to share. I don't really need or want anything out of it, but if it just resonates with one person, then that's all that matters. Especially because a lot of people, they see when people get sober, they see maybe like, oh, the lifestyle is boring, or they see someone sober and they're trying to pick up so many pieces up that they don't really live a quality of life. And so I'm just trying to try to put out positivity out there that, as a man, right, as a grown adult, when you handle your responsibilities and when you commit to doing and being a better person and working on yourself, because right in AA and it's the 12 step, it's all about self-reflection and getting rid of our demons and understanding where we went wrong and what holds us back. And if I could just kind of self-reflection everything, bro, I just want to preach that we as
Yeah.
human beings, we really need to look at our deficiencies and be willing to face it and be willing
Yeah.
to do something about it. Because if not, that animosity, the maliciousness, all that stuff, it's gonna kill you and it's gonna eat you alive.
So true. That's so true. Self-reflection's everything. I mean, on Saturday, I went to this breathwork class, a 2-hour breathwork class, and people had talked about it before. I'm like, what the heck is a breathing exercise is going to do for my life? But it gave me 2 hours to do a lot of reflection and stuff, to the point where it made myself and other people in the room emotional, because you get nothing but darkness and some music in the background and your eyes are closed and just time to think, and I'm trying to there's just a reminder that I need to sit back and reflect, do a lot more self-reflection on a regular basis. That way I can actually grow and improve on things and not bring the toxic traits that I had before into my sober life, and I still catch myself doing that at times. I mean, I've made videos about still having the problem ghosting and communication and stuff like that. Some of the same repeat mistakes that I used to do when I was using, and it's like, all right, I can improve them now that I'm sober though. So yeah,
Exactly. And that's the one thing about AA too, man. It teaches you how to be a better human. People think that it teaches
exactly.
you, oh, just to no, but it teaches you if you've done something wrong or if you feel like you wronged someone, if you feel like you were short with someone, that you cut someone off or whatever, go
Yeah.
apologize, make amends.
Exactly. I know. And we can own it. We can take accountability now. And I'm a big member of AA. I chair meetings on Tuesdays and I love it. The program saved my life. I mean, I don't do everything by the book as much as some other people do, but I'm a little unconventional sometimes, but the meeting saved my life though. The people saved my life, so I need
Yeah.
it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. AA 100%. It set the cornerstone. It saved my life too. Everyone's recovery is different. I'm never going to knock someone who is getting sober, and it's definitely the foundation. And if people could get sober other ways, hey, by all means, right? Just, right? AA really, really set the foundation, and I'm thankful for it. And my
Yeah.
family's thankful for it too.
Me too. That's awesome. How's that improved your relationship?
No, I'm single.
Oh,
Yeah.
single. Okay.
Singles. Yeah. See, I've
Awesome.
been single but this AA and getting sober taught me how to be single, that I can be single. Before I was very codependent and I needed a girlfriend. I needed a toxic relationship. I could not be alone in my own thoughts. I needed someone to be there
I
for
know
me.
that feeling. I know that
Yeah.
feeling very well.
And
I was like relationship, addict. It was one after the other after the other. Once, you know, things got too toxic, I would move on to another toxic relationship. Half of it was my fault too.
yeah.
For my listeners out there, a couple closing questions. What's been the biggest challenge in your recovery, and what advice would you give based on your sobriety for 9 months now?
The biggest challenge was having to pick up the pieces and having to face all the ones that are wrong and to face and ask for forgiveness, having to swallow your pride, killing your ego, and having to apologize. And even if they've done you wrong as well, you're not there to point that out. That's between them and God and them and their conscience. It's just
Yeah.
for you. That's one of the biggest things ever, was to do that. And then probably even bigger than that is to forgive yourself, is to not keep that shame and to not still hold yourself in the light of who you were when you were using, is to build up a life that you are proud of and happy now, to where if someone comments on you about those old actions, they no longer affect you, because that is no longer who you are.
So true. I spent so much time beating myself up every time somebody would kind of bring up old stuff, you know, like, or I would do something kind of similar to what I was doing 2 years ago, and it would shut me down because I'm like, oh, I'm still the same piece of shit that I was 2 years ago. But at the same time, I'm like, no, that's not me. There's still hints of it here and there, but I'm actively working on it. Like, I'm doing something about it now. I go to a meeting every day. I talk to a counselor. Like, there's so many things I'm doing differently now that don't make me that person anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other question was, what advice would you give from your personal experience?
Advice from your personal experience is to fully commit to whatever it is that you got to do in this life, right? Whether it is you want to be a business owner, whether it is you want to be an athlete, or whatever it is. Because fully committing to this program and wanting to be sober is what changed my life. And also, though, it is to kill your ego. Even if you're the smartest person in the room, even if you're so intelligent and your IQ is this and that, you could always be taught something. And to allow yourself to be quiet and to listen and to put others first and to be compassionate and to remember that other people are in this world and that we need to be more compassionate with others. And lastly, man, is trusting God. Trusting God. Our way gets us where we're at when we think that we know it all. To really, really submit to God, man, and to just understand that we are nothing without Him.
I love that. Submit to God, you know. This whole being sober thing requires, you know, surrendering, you know, and submission and all that stuff. And it's like really tough because we do have egos and we are strong minded and stuff. And we don't want to be told that we have to change something or whatever. So, I mean, that takes a lot, but that's great advice. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother.
How can people reach you on social media and all that if they want to see some of your content or DM you for help or whatever?
Yeah, dude, they can just go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I think TikTok is my same thing, but Instagram, it's handle Bello. It's BELL_OHHH.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on and really appreciate you. Are there, just to finish up the episode, is there any quotes that you live by that stand out in your head right now?
Trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. There
I
it
like
is.
that. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
All right, then, brother. You take care. God bless. All right. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.